I never imagined we'd reach a point where we'd say we burned down the family farm, but here we are. Trump decided not to issue the farm subsidies this year. Fine, farmers said. Then let the crops burn and let everyone starve. In Nebraska, fields have been reduced to ashes. In Kansas, soybean farms still smolder. And these weren't wildfires. These were intentional. Farmers lit the fires themselves. Why? Because the harvest wasn't even worth the cost of running the tractor. With prices crashing and no buyers, letting the crops sit would only deepen the losses. In America, 2025, the fields meant to nourish a nation are being deliberately destroyed, acre by acre. Not out of protest, but out of desperation. Farmers have stopped counting seeds. Now they count the few dollars they might reclaim through insurance after another failed season. There's no war, no storm. And yet America's breadbasket is buckling. Here are 10 states where farmland fires aren't acts of rebirth. They're warnings of collapse. Kansas, once known as the land of golden wheat and harvesters humming with hope, Kansas now echoes with crackling fire and silence. Wheat prices have dropped below $5 a bushel, a figure so low that harvesting means taking a loss. With no money to rent equipment or pay for transport, many farmers are doing the unthinkable, burning their fields. According to the Kansas Department of Agriculture, over 11% of this year's wheat acreage has been destroyed, not by insects or weather, but because there are no buyers. It's legal, but heartbreaking. A 58-year-old farmer in Salina said, "I can't stand watching the wheat grow just to die in my hands." Across Kansas, farmland isn't a symbol of life anymore. It's a quiet graveyard. The ripple effects are severe. A flour mill in Wichita is cutting production. A packaging company in Hutchinson canceled contracts with 3 print shops. A rural bank closed a branch after a wave of farm mortgage defaults. And honestly, nobody is talking about the next season. Some have listed their land for sale. Others are renting out machinery. Many have simply walked away. Nebraska has always been quiet but reliable, feeding millions with corn, soybeans, and beef. But in 2025, that silence speaks of collapse. Grain co-ops are overflowing, yet farmers can't sell or harvest. Some leave the fields untouched. Others torch them to cut losses and qualify for insurance. A University of Nebraska report says the number of burned or abandoned acres nearly doubled compared to early 2024. Online videos show flames tearing through cornfields as if farmers are erasing their own history. A Grand Island farm that won Farm of the Year in 2019 now lies in ruins. Its owner lost 2 harvests, sank into debt, and is selling the land at a loss. Asked why he didn't wait one more year, he said, "I can't let my son grow up surrounded by the wreckage of my hope." Businesses are unraveling too. A feed mill in Kearney cut staff by 20%. A corn storage facility in Columbus shut down. In small towns, people are waking up to a painful truth. When farmland fails, everything else follows. Nebraska's once stable soil now proves that even the strongest foundations can crumble. While Nebraska falls in silence, Texas is crumbling from exhaustion. Known for cattle, hay, and corn, Texas farmers are facing erratic rains, surprise floods, and soaring input costs. Markets aren't responding. Across the state, ranchers are burning pastures to avoid upkeep costs. When no water is available, farmers must choose: try to save the grass or burn it and save the ranch. In the Rio Grande Valley, rows of citrus trees now stand dead, cracked by drought. Irrigation systems are failing. In some counties, water deliveries were cut by 45% during March and April. With no water and rising costs, many turned to fire. Cattle ranchers suffer a double blow: no grass to graze and no one to buy the beef. Processing plants cut back. Over 9,000 cattle were sold off in 3 West Texas counties, according to the state's agricultural data. One Amarillo rancher said, "I'm not burning because I want to. I'm burning because I can't watch this land die slowly, and the pain is spreading." A produce logistics company in Leavitt slashed 40% of its delivery routes. A livestock feed plant in El Paso temporarily shut down after orders collapsed. Texas doesn't surrender easily, but in 2025, its farms are withering. California's Central Valley once grew a third of the country's fruits, nuts, and vegetables. But now, even that land is going quiet. Water costs are up 40% year over year. Faced with another brutal drought, Farmers are ripping out orchards and vineyards. Burning is cheaper than maintaining crops no one can afford to harvest. In Fresno and Kern counties, almond trees are being cut down and burned in silence. A UC Davis report found that almond exports dropped 30% since 2023. With costs rising and buyers disappearing, many farmers have stopped trying. It's not just almonds. Vineyards in Napa and Sonoma tell the same tale. Some wineries sold their land to cover debt. Others burned fields before harvest to avoid upkeep. Modesto bottling plants cut 25% of staff in the first quarter. An organic packaging firm in Sacramento shut 2 fruit lines. And a logistics company that once shipped premium California produce is posting quarterly losses. What was once the pride of Made in America organics now drifts away in smoke. If California was the fruit bowl, Iowa was the kitchen. Still the nation's top corn and soybean producer, Iowa is experiencing a cruel twist. Corn stockpiles hit their highest levels since 2017, yet prices have collapsed. At $4.35 per bushel, many farmers are losing money with every sale. Rather than harvest, many farmers let the corn die, then burned it. It was cheaper than paying for combines and trucks. In counties like Cerro Gordo and Hancock, harvest sounds have been replaced by eerie silence. According to Iowa State University, 17% of soybean acreage was either abandoned or destroyed. Yields couldn't cover even basic costs. A co-op in Fort Dodge laid off workers. An ethanol plant in Mason City shut down, not from oversupply but from corn shortages. Equipment dealers report a 38% sales drop. Community meetings are empty. For sale signs line the roads. Farmers no longer talk about the harvest. They talk about when they'll leave. Iowa isn't burning like the West, but the emotional freeze creeping through the Midwest might be even worse. It's quiet, slow, and dangerous. In Illinois, by mid-April, while most states were planting, much of central Illinois was still bare. Not due to bad weather, but by choice. Farmers chose not to plant at all. With unstable markets, rising input costs, and no guaranteed contracts, many saw no point in investing. Instead, they let the land rest. Some even burned early plantings to cut losses. According to the Illinois Farm Bureau, acreage in Logan, Sangamon, and Christian counties fell nearly 13% year over year, the highest drop in over a decade. And these aren't marginal lands. These are high-yield soybean fields once considered top tier. Even farms practicing sustainability are giving up. A new trend of early field clearing, plowing or burning at the growth stage, is catching on fast. Why? Because of unstable prices and debt deadlines. The risk no longer feels worth it. Across the heartland, the fire is both literal and metaphorical. It signals the unraveling of a system pushed beyond its limits. The crops are burning, yes, but what's really being lost is something deeper. The faith that the land will provide, that hard work will pay off, and that farming still has a future. Missouri isn't as loud as California or as prominent as Iowa, but it has long been a quiet cornerstone of American agriculture. Pork, corn, soybeans, and cattle, these were its staples. But in 2025, across a state once proud of its 95,000 farms, a strange pattern is emerging: flames and emptiness. Export contracts are stalling. The domestic market is clogged. Corn prices have dropped so low that planting more makes no financial sense. Instead of paying to harvest crops no one wants, farmers are tearing them out, and in some cases setting fields ablaze. In the Boot Heel region, where fertile soil once gave Missouri a competitive edge, dozens of corn and soybean fields were cleared in just days. A state agriculture report noted that over 10% of southeastern Missouri farmland is being returned to the earth, a softer way of saying crops are being destroyed mid-season. Livestock farms are suffering too. Feed prices are up, hog prices are down, and farmers are selling off animals or shrinking herds. A slaughterhouse in Springfield cut production by 2/3. Equipment financing has stalled in Columbia. Rural banks are seeing a surge in debt restructuring. What makes Missouri's crisis so dangerous is its quiet pace. There's no dramatic collapse, just farmer after farmer, co-op after co-op, quietly stepping away. No bankruptcies, no protests, just vanishing farms. North Carolina isn't a top agricultural state by volume, but it's always had a special place in American farming with biodiversity and small-scale systems rooted in community. In 2025, though, something is shifting. In the cotton and soybean fields of eastern North Carolina, 14% of growers delayed planting, the highest rate since 2009. Why? State support programs for sustainable farming were cut or delayed during a budget reshuffling. Grants that once helped small farms try organic methods or cut pesticide use are gone. Without that support, many small farmers are walking away. Over 1,700 acres of cotton were abandoned this spring. Some burned what they couldn't afford to harvest. Fires flickered across the coastal plains, not as protest, but as surrender. Ripple effects followed. Cotton buyers in Greenville cut operations 40%. A textile mill in Wilson laid off workers. Agricultural transport saw its lowest volumes since 2016. Even mixed farms, chickens, cotton, and vegetables are pulling back, with no financial buffer or crop insurance. With costs rising and buyers slowing, everything begins to fall apart. Maine has never been a high-output farm state, but it stood as a model of sustainable local agriculture. In 2025, that dream is cracking. Small farms growing strawberries, organic vegetables, and free-range poultry are shutting down. According to the Maine Farmland Trust, 18% of small farms have closed or paused operations this year. Why? Cuts to local ag programs, labor shortages, and soaring input costs. When crop insurance premiums climb above 12% of projected value and organic prices fall at market, many give up. Some have sold land to real estate firms to pay off debts. Others burn moldy crops left unharvested, not from neglect, but because there were no buyers or functioning logistics chains. Farmers markets are closing early. Ag training centers are canceling classes. Cold storage warehouses are being repurposed as event venues. There's no firestorm, just a quiet retreat, a cold burn. Montana isn't known for mass-market produce, but it's a backbone of wheat and feed grain for the national supply. And in 2025, even this rugged state is breaking. Harvested acreage dropped 15% in the first quarter, according to the Montana Wheat Association. Wheat is below $5 a bushel, and the fuel cost to harvest exceeds the return. Farmers are ripping up crops and burning fields to restore soil and wait for a better year, if they can afford one. Droughts have hammered eastern Montana for 3 of the last 4 years. Water is scarce, feed prices are up, and cattle ranchers are giving up. Some are selling entire herds or moving livestock out of state. Montana's challenge isn't just economic, it's geographic. There's no strong network of support. Towns like Hover and Glasgow are seeing shuttered shops, abandoned ranches, and neglected grasslands. This isn't a loud collapse, it's a slow retreat, and when belief wears thin, even the toughest land begins to crack. 10 states, 10 warnings. In 2025, farmers aren't fighting to survive. They're burning the fields to lose less. Who will grow America's food when even the most resilient are forced to let go?